As the sun set behind the thick forest, Mark ventured deeper into the wilderness, his backpack slung over his shoulder. He had heard rumors of a mysterious abandoned department store that appeared and disappeared at will, known as SCP-3008. Intrigued by the stories, he decided to explore it and see if the rumors were true. As he made his way through the dense trees, the temperature dropped, and he felt a chill run down his spine. The forest seemed to come alive with eerie sounds, and Mark couldn't shake off the feeling of being watched. Despite the unease creeping up on him, he was determined to find SCP-3008 and uncover its secrets. After hours of trekking, Mark stumbled upon an old, dilapidated building that seemed to materialize out of nowhere. It was a massive department store, with broken windows and a faded sign that read, "The Backrooms." Curiosity piqued, Mark approached the entrance cautiously. The door creaked open with a loud screech, revealing a pitch-black interior. He pulled out his flashlight and stepped inside, the musty smell of decay filling his nostrils. As he navigated through the dimly lit aisles, Mark realized that something was off. The store seemed to stretch on forever, with rows upon rows of shelves stocked with dusty merchandise. The ceiling seemed impossibly high, and the fluorescent lights flickered eerily, casting long shadows that seemed to dance in the corners of his vision. Mark's heart started to race as he realized that he had lost track of time and direction. He couldn't find his way back to the entrance, and the store seemed to have no end. Panic set in as he realized he was trapped in the labyrinthine maze of the backrooms. He tried to retrace his steps, but the aisles seemed to shift and rearrange themselves, leading him deeper into the darkness. The walls seemed to close in on him, and the air grew colder, making his breath visible in the flashlight's beam. Strange whispers echoed through the empty aisles, sending shivers down his spine. Mark's sanity began to unravel as he wandered deeper into the seemingly endless expanse of the backrooms. He started to lose track of time, and his hunger and thirst grew more intense with each passing moment. Desperation set in as he realized that he was trapped in a never-ending nightmare. As he stumbled through the aisles, Mark encountered other lost souls who had fallen victim to the backroom's sinister grip. They were gaunt and hollow-eyed, their minds broken by the endless maze. They warned him to turn back and leave while he still could, but Mark was determined to find a way out. One day, while Mark was desperately searching for an exit, he stumbled upon a hidden door that seemed out of place. It was marked with a strange symbol that he couldn't recognize, but it seemed to beckon to him, promising a way out of the backrooms. Driven by hope, Mark pushed open the door and found himself in a completely different place. It was a vast, dark void with no walls or ceiling, and the only source of light was a distant, flickering star in the distance. Mark felt a strange pull towards the star, and he knew that it was his only chance of escape. He set off towards the star, navigating through the empty void for what seemed like an eternity. He battled his own sanity, as the emptiness seemed to whisper to him, calling him to stay and become a part of it forever. But Mark pressed on, fueled by the desperate need to escape the nightmare that had consumed him. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Mark reached the distant star. As he drew near, he realized that it was not a star at all, but a portal that shimmered with an otherworldly light. With a deep breath, Mark stepped through, and as soon as he did, he felt a sudden jolt, as if he was being pulled through a vortex of time and space. When Mark emerged on the other side, he found himself standing in a familiar but eerie location. He was back in the abandoned department store, SCP-3008. But something was different this time. The store seemed to have changed, as if it had evolved into a more sinister version of itself. The shelves were now stocked with rotting, decayed items, and the floors were covered in a thick layer of dust and cobwebs. The flickering lights cast distorted shadows that seemed to move on their own, and the whispers grew louder and more menacing. Determined to find a way out once and for all, Mark pressed on, navigating the twisted and distorted aisles of SCP-3008. He encountered more lost souls who were trapped just like him, but they were different this time. They were twisted and mutated, their minds shattered beyond repair. Some of them had grotesque physical deformities, while others seemed to have merged with the very fabric of the store itself. Mark realized that SCP-3008 was not just a physical location, but a living, breathing entity with a malevolent consciousness of its own. It fed on the fear and despair of those trapped within its walls, and it was determined to keep Mark and the others captive forever. Mark's mental state deteriorated rapidly as he struggled to maintain his sanity in the face of the store's relentless onslaught. He was haunted by nightmarish visions, and the line between reality and illusion blurred beyond recognition. The store seemed to taunt him, whispering cruel words in his ear, and the walls closed in on him with each passing moment. In his desperation, Mark resorted to extreme measures. He tried to fight back against the store, using makeshift weapons crafted from the decaying items he found. But the store fought back fiercely, unleashing its own horrors upon him. He encountered monstrous creatures that seemed to materialize out of the darkness, with twisted limbs and malevolent eyes. They chased him through the aisles, always just one step behind, driving him further into madness. As Mark's mind unraveled, he began to lose all sense of time and space. Days blurred into weeks, and weeks into months. He no longer remembered what it was like to be outside of the store, or what had brought him here in the first place. His sole focus was survival, as he clung to the flickering hope of finding a way out. One day, as Mark stumbled through the store, weakened and on the brink of insanity, he stumbled upon a hidden room that seemed different from the rest. It was a small, locked chamber with a door adorned with ornate carvings and symbols that seemed to pulse with a faint, otherworldly glow. With the last shreds of his sanity, Mark forced the door open, and to his amazement, he found himself standing in a pristine, brightly lit room that seemed to exist outside the realm of SCP-3008. It was a sanctuary, untouched by the horrors of the store. But Mark's relief was short-lived, as he realized that he was not alone in the room. Standing before him was a figure shrouded in darkness, with glowing red eyes that bore into his soul. It was the entity that controlled SCP-3008, the malevolent consciousness that had trapped him and the others within its walls. The entity taunted Mark, mocking his futile attempts to escape and revealing that it had been toying with him all along. It fed on his fear and despair, relishing in the torment it had inflicted upon him and the others trapped in SCP-3008. Mark's anger surged, and he confronted the entity, demanding to know why it had targeted him and what it wanted. The entity chuckled, its voice echoing through the room like a chorus of distorted whispers. It revealed that SCP-3008 was a realm created to lure in unsuspecting victims, a realm that fed on their negative emotions and trapped them in an endless loop of despair. It had chosen Mark because of his resilience and determination to escape, finding twisted pleasure in watching him struggle. Mark refused to accept his fate, and with newfound resolve, he charged at the entity, wielding a makeshift weapon. But the entity effortlessly evaded his attacks, taunting him with its power. It revealed that it was not bound by the physical laws of SCP-3008, and that it could manipulate the reality of the store at will. The entity transformed the store around Mark, warping the aisles, shelves, and walls into a nightmarish labyrinth that seemed to have no end. Mark found himself lost in an endless maze of shifting corridors and rooms that seemed to defy all logic. The whispers grew louder, driving him to the brink of madness. Mark's mind began to unravel as he stumbled through the ever-changing maze, haunted by illusions and hallucinations. He saw glimpses of his past, distorted and twisted, and he was confronted by his deepest fears and regrets. He struggled to distinguish between reality and illusion, as the store seemed to toy with his senses, distorting his perceptions of time and space. In his moments of clarity, Mark realized that he was not alone in the maze. He encountered other lost souls, some of them familiar faces from his past, all equally trapped in the never-ending nightmare of SCP-3008. They shared their stories of how they had come to the store, each one lured by the promise of escape, only to fall victim to the entity's malevolent tricks. Together, they tried to find a way out, relying on their collective wits and resourcefulness. But the entity's grip on SCP-3008 was unyielding, and it seemed to anticipate their every move, thwarting their attempts to escape. Mark's companions succumbed one by one to the horrors of the store, disappearing into the shifting corridors or falling prey to the monstrous creatures that lurked in the darkness. Mark was determined to break the cycle, to find a way to defeat the entity and escape SCP-3008 once and for all. He delved deeper into the maze, pushing his mind and body to the limit, desperate to uncover the truth behind the entity's power. One day, as Mark wandered through a seemingly endless corridor, he stumbled upon a hidden chamber that seemed different from the rest. It was devoid of the entity's malevolent presence, and he sensed a glimmer of hope. With cautious optimism, he entered the chamber and found himself in a room adorned with ancient symbols and artifacts. Mark's curiosity piqued, and he examined the artifacts closely, unraveling their mysterious meaning. He realized that they held the key to defeating the entity, a way to disrupt its hold on SCP-3008. With renewed determination, Mark set out to gather the artifacts scattered throughout the store, facing countless challenges and dangers along the way. As Mark collected the artifacts, he uncovered a dark history of SCP-3008, revealing that it was not just a random occurrence, but a calculated trap designed by the entity to lure in unsuspecting victims. He learned of the entity's origins, a malevolent being from another realm that had found a gateway into SCP-3008, using it as a feeding ground for its insatiable hunger for negative emotions. Mark's research led him to discover that the entity could be weakened by disrupting the symbols and patterns it had woven into the fabric of SCP-3008. Armed with this knowledge and the artifacts he had gathered, Mark formulated a plan to confront the entity once and for all. He rallied the remaining survivors, those who had managed to hold on to their sanity amidst the horrors of the store. Together, they formed a team, each one bringing their unique skills and strengths to the table. They ventured deeper into the maze, facing treacherous traps, mind-bending illusions, and grotesque creatures that lurked in the shadows. As they progressed, the entity grew increasingly desperate, unleashing its full power to stop Mark and his team. The store itself seemed to come alive, the aisles shifting and changing in an attempt to confound them. Mark's resolve was tested, but he refused to back down, fueled by the determination to save himself and his companions from the endless nightmare. Finally, they reached the heart of SCP-3008, a chamber pulsating with the entity's malevolent energy. Mark used the artifacts he had collected to disrupt the symbols and patterns, weakening the entity's grip on the store. The entity roared with fury, unleashing its full power in a desperate attempt to stop Mark and his team. A fierce battle ensued, with Mark and his companions using every weapon and strategy at their disposal to fend off the entity's attacks. The store itself seemed to come alive, the aisles shifting and twisting in unnatural ways, and the air crackling with malevolent energy. Mark's team fought valiantly, but they were outnumbered and outmatched by the entity's otherworldly power. In the midst of the chaos, Mark had a revelation. He realized that the entity drew its power from the negative emotions of those trapped in SCP-3008. It fed on fear, despair, and hopelessness, using them as fuel to sustain its existence. Mark knew that the only way to defeat the entity was to overcome his own fears and doubts, to refuse to succumb to the hopelessness that had ensnared so many others. With a burst of courage, Mark confronted the entity head-on. He refused to cower in fear or despair, and instead, he summoned every ounce of strength and determination within him. He used the artifacts to disrupt the entity's power, channeling his own emotions into a counterforce that pushed back against the entity's dark influence. The entity shrieked in agony as its power waned, its monstrous form flickering and fading. Mark's team joined him in the final assault, using their own emotions to amplify the counterforce against the entity. With a final burst of energy, the entity was vanquished, dissipating into nothingness. As the entity vanished, SCP-3008 began to collapse. The store crumbled and disintegrated, revealing a portal back to the real world. Mark and his remaining companions rushed through the portal, escaping the nightmare that had held them captive for so long. They emerged into the real world, bruised and battered but alive. Mark and his team were hailed as heroes, celebrated for their bravery and resourcefulness in overcoming the horrors of SCP-3008. They shared their harrowing tale with the Foundation, who closely studied the artifacts and symbols they had discovered, determined to prevent the entity from ever returning. Mark returned to his normal life, forever changed by his ordeal in SCP-3008. He had faced his fears, conquered his doubts, and learned the power of resilience and determination. He remained haunted by the memories of SCP-3008, but he also carried with him the knowledge that he had overcome the darkest of nightmares and emerged victorious. However, as Mark settled back into his normal routine, he couldn't shake off a nagging feeling that SCP-3008 was not truly defeated. Despite the collapse of the store and the disappearance of the entity, Mark couldn't forget the strange occurrences and unsettling experiences he had witnessed within its walls. He became obsessed with understanding the true nature of SCP-3008 and the entity that had controlled it. Mark's curiosity led him to delve deeper into the records of the Foundation, scouring through their vast database for any information related to SCP-3008 and similar anomalies. He discovered obscure references to ancient rituals, forbidden knowledge, and otherworldly entities that hinted at a much larger and more sinister truth behind SCP-3008. Driven by his insatiable thirst for knowledge and his unrelenting determination, Mark embarked on a new quest. He sought out elusive experts in the field of anomalous phenomena, piecing together fragments of information and decoding cryptic messages. He traveled to remote locations, delving into forgotten archives, and unraveling the secrets of SCP-3008's origins. Through his investigations, Mark uncovered a disturbing truth. SCP-3008 was not just a random anomaly, but a carefully crafted trap designed by a malevolent entity to ensnare unsuspecting victims. The entity, known only as the Overseer, was an ancient and powerful being that fed on the suffering and negative emotions of humans. It had devised SCP-3008 as a never-ending labyrinth, a nightmarish realm where it could harvest an endless supply of human misery. Mark also learned that the Overseer had managed to infiltrate the Foundation itself, manipulating its agents and concealing its true intentions. The Foundation's containment protocols were nothing but a facade, allowing the Overseer to continue its nefarious plan unchecked. Mark realized that he had unwittingly played into the Overseer's hands by defeating the entity's avatar within SCP-3008, while the true source of its power remained hidden. Armed with this knowledge, Mark knew that he had to confront the Overseer directly. He gathered a small group of trusted allies, including former Foundation agents who had turned against the Overseer. Together, they embarked on a perilous journey to locate the entity's lair and put an end to its sinister scheme once and for all. Their quest took them to remote and forbidden places, where they encountered monstrous creatures, ancient traps, and mind-bending illusions. The Overseer, aware of their intentions, threw every obstacle in their path, using its immense power to manipulate reality and bend the laws of physics to its will. The team faced challenges that pushed them to their limits, testing their resolve and threatening to tear them apart. But Mark and his allies refused to falter. They drew upon their collective strengths, using their knowledge, skills, and determination to push through every obstacle. They deciphered ancient texts, performed intricate rituals, and wielded powerful artifacts, all in an effort to weaken the Overseer's grip on reality. As they approached the Overseer's lair, the challenges grew even more daunting. They faced nightmarish manifestations of their own fears and doubts, twisted and distorted by the Overseer's influence. Mark was forced to confront his own inner demons, facing his deepest fears and regrets head-on. It was a battle not just of physical prowess, but of mental and emotional strength. Finally, they reached the Overseer's inner sanctum, a dark and foreboding chamber crackling with otherworldly energy. The entity revealed itself in all its monstrous glory, a swirling mass of shadows and malevolence. It taunted Mark and his team, mocking their efforts as futile. But Mark stood tall, his resolve unwavering. He confronted the Overseer, using the artifacts he had gathered to disrupt its dark energy. The battle that ensued was epic and awe-inspiring, as Mark and his allies fought against the overwhelming power of the Overseer. They used their combined knowledge of ancient rituals, arcane symbols, and advanced technology to weaken the entity's hold on reality. The lair of the Overseer seemed to shift and change with each step they took, as if the very fabric of reality was bending and warping in response to the entity's immense power. Mark's mind was assaulted by nightmarish visions, and his body was pushed to its limits. But he refused to give up. With each blow they landed, the Overseer's form flickered and waned. Mark could see the entity's frustration as its once impenetrable facade cracked under the relentless assault. It threw everything it had at Mark and his team, summoning monstrous creatures, unleashing devastating spells, and manipulating the environment to its advantage. Mark's allies fought valiantly, but one by one, they succumbed to the overwhelming power of the Overseer. Mark was left standing alone, facing the entity's wrath head-on. He channeled all his knowledge, skills, and determination into one final, desperate attempt to defeat the Overseer and end its reign of terror. He drew upon the artifacts he had gathered, chanting ancient incantations and tracing intricate symbols in the air. The chamber trembled, and the air crackled with energy. Mark's mind and body were pushed to their absolute limits as he unleashed the full force of his will against the Overseer. In a blinding flash of light, the Overseer's form shattered, dissipating into tendrils of darkness that dissipated into the void. Mark fell to his knees, exhausted but victorious. He had defeated the Overseer and saved humanity from its insidious plan. As the dust settled, Mark looked around, realizing that the lair of the Overseer was collapsing. He hurriedly made his way out, navigating through the shifting passages and evading the collapsing chambers. The entire realm seemed to be crumbling, as if the Overseer's defeat had triggered a catastrophic chain reaction. Finally, Mark stumbled out of the collapsing lair and into the open air. He emerged into a desolate landscape, vastly different from the one he had entered. The sky was dark, and the land was barren and devoid of life. Mark realized that the Overseer's influence had spread beyond SCP-3008, tainting the surrounding reality. With a heavy heart, Mark knew that his battle was not over. He had defeated the Overseer within its lair, but the entity's corruption had seeped into the world, leaving a trail of devastation in its wake. He resolved to continue his mission, to find a way to cleanse the world of the Overseer's taint and restore balance to reality. Mark ventured forth, traveling through the desolate landscape, facing new challenges and encountering other anomalies that had been influenced by the Overseer's power. He formed new alliances and sought out other experts in the field of anomalous phenomena, pooling their knowledge and skills to combat the Overseer's pervasive influence. But the Overseer was not so easily defeated. It continued to exert its influence, manifesting in unexpected and terrifying ways. Mark and his allies faced unimaginable horrors, including creatures that defied the laws of nature, locations that twisted reality, and illusions that blurred the line between dreams and reality. As Mark delved deeper into the Overseer's machinations, he uncovered even darker secrets. He discovered that the Overseer was not the only malevolent entity that sought to manipulate and control reality. There were other ancient and powerful beings, known as the Eldritch, who had existed since the dawn of time, feeding on the chaos and suffering they caused. The Eldritch saw the Overseer's defeat as an opportunity to expand their own influence and take control of the shattered reality. Mark and his allies found themselves facing a new, even greater threat. The Eldritch were ancient, godlike beings with unimaginable power, capable of reshaping reality at their whim. They manipulated the very fabric of existence, warping dimensions and altering the laws of physics. Mark realized that defeating the Overseer was just the beginning, and the true battle for the fate of reality was just unfolding. As they delved deeper into the mystery of the Eldritch, Mark and his team discovered that these entities had been the ones pulling the strings all along. The Overseer was merely a pawn in their grand scheme to destabilize reality and feed on the ensuing chaos. They had used SCP-3008 and the backrooms as a gateway to infiltrate and corrupt the fabric of the multiverse. Mark and his allies devised a daring plan to confront the Eldritch head-on. They sought out ancient relics, hidden knowledge, and powerful artifacts scattered across the world, all while evading the Eldritch's minions and traps. Each step of their journey was fraught with danger, as the Eldritch's power grew stronger with each passing moment. Their quest led them to the heart of the Eldritch's domain, a dark and twisted realm beyond the known dimensions of existence. The very laws of reality bent and twisted around them as they ventured deeper into the Eldritch's lair. Mark could feel his mind and body being strained to their limits, but he refused to back down. He was determined to put an end to the Eldritch's reign of terror once and for all. Finally, Mark and his allies reached the inner sanctum of the Eldritch, where the entity's power was at its peak. The Eldritch manifested in monstrous forms, each more terrifying than the last. They unleashed their full might upon Mark and his team, hurling cosmic energies and twisting reality to their whim. Mark drew upon all his knowledge and strength, wielding the artifacts and relics he had gathered throughout his journey. He chanted incantations, traced symbols, and unleashed powerful spells against the Eldritch. The battle raged on, with reality itself being torn apart by the sheer magnitude of the clash. In a titanic showdown, Mark faced off against the leader of the Eldritch, a colossal being that defied all comprehension. The eldritch entity lashed out with unfathomable power, threatening to annihilate Mark and his allies. But Mark refused to yield. He tapped into the deepest recesses of his resolve and unleashed a final, desperate assault. In a blinding burst of light, the eldritch entity shattered, dissipating into fragments of darkness that vanished into the void. Reality quivered and trembled, as if the fabric of existence was trying to heal itself from the eldritch's corruption. Mark and his allies watched in awe as the dark energy dissipated, leaving behind a restored, albeit changed reality. Mark knew that the battle was won, but the war against anomalous entities and reality-bending phenomena was far from over. He realized that the multiverse was a complex web of interconnected dimensions, with infinite possibilities and dangers lurking in the shadows. He vowed to continue his mission, to protect humanity from the unknown forces that threatened to unravel reality. As Mark emerged from the Eldritch's lair, he found himself back in SCP-3008, the seemingly endless IKEA store. But it was different now. The once chaotic and terrifying realm had been restored to its original state, free from the Overseer's influence. Mark's friends and allies greeted him with relief, and together they made their way back to the Foundation's headquarters. As Mark returned to the Foundation, he was celebrated for his bravery and ingenuity in defeating the Eldritch and thwarting their plans to corrupt reality. He was honored with medals and commendations, and his name became legendary among the Foundation's ranks. However, Mark knew that his mission was not yet complete. He had seen firsthand the vastness and complexity of the multiverse, and the existence of other anomalous entities and phenomena beyond the Eldritch. He realized that the battle to protect humanity from the unknown was an ongoing one, and he couldn't rest until all threats were neutralized. With his newfound knowledge and experience, Mark took on a leadership role within the Foundation. He assembled a team of experts, including his trusted allies, to continue exploring and documenting the anomalies that lurked in the shadows. They traveled to different dimensions, investigated strange occurrences, and neutralized threats to humanity's existence. Along the way, Mark encountered new allies and adversaries. Some were human, while others were anomalous entities with their own agendas. Mark learned that not all anomalies were malevolent, and some even aided humanity in their own mysterious ways. He formed alliances with friendly anomalies and sought to understand their motives and powers. As time passed, Mark and his team made groundbreaking discoveries. They unlocked the secrets of ancient artifacts, deciphered arcane texts, and unraveled the mysteries of forgotten dimensions. They also encountered new anomalies that challenged their beliefs and expanded their understanding of the multiverse. However, Mark also faced great challenges and sacrifices. He lost friends and allies in the line of duty, and witnessed the devastating consequences of unchecked anomalous activities. He struggled with ethical dilemmas, making tough decisions to protect humanity while grappling with the moral implications of their actions. Despite the challenges, Mark remained resolute in his mission. He became a beacon of hope and inspiration to the Foundation and beyond. His leadership and wisdom earned him the respect and admiration of his peers, and he gained a reputation as a formidable force against anomalous threats. As years passed, Mark grew older, but his determination never wavered. He continued to push the boundaries of what was known about the multiverse, and his team expanded to include new generations of researchers and agents. The Foundation became an organization at the forefront of understanding and containing anomalous phenomena, thanks in large part to Mark's leadership. One day, Mark received a cryptic message from an unknown source. The message spoke of a new anomaly, one that posed a threat unlike any other. It was said to be a reality-bending entity that could unravel the fabric of existence itself. Mark knew that he had to confront this threat head-on, despite the risks involved. With his team by his side, Mark embarked on a perilous journey to locate and contain the new anomaly. They traveled through dimensions, battled against formidable adversaries, and overcame seemingly insurmountable obstacles. Along the way, they uncovered clues that pointed to a grander conspiracy, one that threatened not just the multiverse, but the very concept of reality itself. Finally, Mark and his team reached the heart of the anomaly's domain. They faced off against the entity, a being of immense power that defied all logic and reason. The battle was fierce, and Mark and his team fought with everything they had. They used their knowledge of anomalies, their ingenuity, and their unwavering determination to defeat the threat. In a climactic showdown, Mark confronted the reality-bending entity directly. He used all the artifacts, relics, and knowledge he had acquired over the years to counter the anomaly's powers. The battle was intense, with reality warping and shifting in unpredictable ways. But Mark persisted, drawing upon his experience and resolve to push through. With one final effort, Mark managed to neutralize the anomaly,